Your soulmate is in a deep depression. They are dying of regret for not telling you that they tested positive for. My beloved child, before your thoughts race ahead, stay with this moment, because what you are about to hear has been hidden behind silence for far too long. There is a heart somewhere that has been carrying a burden so heavy it has changed the way they wake up, the way they sleep, and the way they remember your name. Every quiet hour has become a conversation they never had the courage to begin. They keep asking themselves one impossible question: what if I had simply told the truth? That single question echoes through every memory they have of you. What seemed like distance was never as simple as you imagined. Something happened that they believed would change everything between you, and instead of opening their heart, they locked every emotion behind a smile that fooled almost everyone. But silence has a strange way of becoming louder than words. And now, that silence is beginning to crack. Stay with this story, because each moment reveals another piece of what has remained hidden. Not long ago, they stood alone with information that completely reshaped their world. The words, "tested positive for," felt like a sentence they couldn't finish, not because they lacked the courage to speak, but because they feared what those unfinished words might mean for the future they secretly dreamed of sharing with you. Their mind filled with endless possibilities, each one heavier than the last. They imagined your reaction. They imagined losing your trust. They imagined becoming someone you would slowly walk away from. So instead of reaching for your hand, they stepped backward into loneliness. They convinced themselves that protecting you meant disappearing from your life. Yet every day that followed only deepened the regret they already carried. What if hiding the truth caused more pain than speaking it ever could? That question refuses to leave them. But this story is not truly about fear. It is about the invisible weight of unspoken honesty. Sometimes people believe that keeping quiet is an act of love, when in reality it becomes the very wall that separates two hearts longing to understand one another. Your soulmate has replayed countless conversations inside their mind, imagining how differently everything might have unfolded if they had simply trusted that truth has a way of creating clarity instead of destruction. They have reached a place where pretending no longer brings peace. The mask grows heavier with every passing sunrise. The distance they created no longer feels like protection, it feels like punishment they quietly give themselves. And perhaps, without realizing it, you have felt this strange shift too, as though an invisible thread connecting your lives has been gently pulling tighter. Now pause for just a second and consider this. What if the chapter you believed was ending has actually been waiting for one honest moment to begin? What if every unanswered message, every unexpected silence, every confusing memory has been leading toward a conversation that changes everything you thought you understood? The future often arrives disguised as uncertainty before revealing its true purpose. Your soulmate is standing closer to that moment than ever before. Their heart is no longer asking whether they should tell you the truth. It is asking whether they still have enough time to be heard. And what happens next may become the turning point neither of you expected. But before that truth is finally spoken, there is another layer of this journey you have not seen yet, and it explains why regret has become the quiet companion they can no longer escape. A quiet shift is already taking place, can you feel it? The silence that once seemed endless is beginning to lose its power. Something inside your soulmate has changed, and they can no longer convince themselves that hiding the truth is the right choice. Regret has a limit. Eventually, it stops whispering and starts demanding action. That is exactly where they find themselves now. Every day they remember another moment when they almost reached out, another opportunity they allowed to slip away. They wonder if you would have listened with compassion instead of judgment. They wonder if the distance between you was created by fate, or by the fear that lived inside them. And the more they think about it, the clearer one realization becomes: honesty delayed can feel heavier than honesty spoken. The truth they have been carrying has become more than a secret. It has become a mirror that reflects every decision they wish they could change. They have imagined writing a message to you dozens of times. Sometimes it begins with an apology. Sometimes it begins with your name. Other times, they stare at a blank screen for minutes, unable to type a single word. Not because they have nothing to say, but because every sentence feels too small for everything they have hidden. They fear that after so much silence, no explanation will ever sound complete. Yet somewhere deep within them, hope refuses to disappear. Hope quietly reminds them that genuine understanding often begins with one honest conversation. And here is something remarkable. Life has a mysterious way of creating moments that no one can predict. The very conversation they have avoided for so long may arrive when they least expect it. It may not happen through perfect timing. It may happen because the weight of pretending has finally become impossible to carry. Sometimes people don't change because they suddenly become fearless. They change because staying the same hurts even more. Your soulmate has reached that crossroads. The path ahead is uncertain, but for the first time, they are looking toward truth instead of away from it. Stay a little longer, because the next part of this journey reveals why this turning point could reshape everything that follows. If these words resonate with your heart, perhaps leave a comment sharing what honesty means to you, or share this message with someone who may need hope today. And if stories like this encourage you to reflect more deeply, you're always welcome to become part of this journey by subscribing. Sometimes one shared story reaches exactly the heart it was meant to find. There is another detail that has remained hidden until now. While your soulmate has been battling regret, they have also been quietly learning something unexpected. They are beginning to understand that the greatest fear was never the truth itself. It was the story they kept telling themselves about how you might respond. Our minds often create endings long before reality has the chance to write its own. That imagined ending kept them trapped. But now, another possibility has entered their thoughts. What if honesty doesn't close the door? What if it opens the one they believed was locked forever? Hold on to that question, because the answer begins to emerge in the next chapter. And it may reveal why this entire journey unfolded exactly the way it did. Everything has been leading to this moment, not because destiny moves in straight lines, but because every hidden truth eventually asks to be seen. Your soulmate has reached a place where they can no longer run from their own heart. The regret that once kept them frozen has transformed into something entirely different, a quiet determination to stop living behind unanswered questions. They have realized that no matter what tomorrow brings, continuing to hide will only deepen the distance they never truly wanted. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever carried something so important that every ordinary day suddenly felt heavier? That is exactly where they are now. They replay old memories, hearing your laughter in their thoughts, remembering conversations that once felt effortless. They don't see those memories as reminders of what they lost. They see them as reminders of what they still hope could be repaired. Every sunrise feels like another opportunity slipping away, and every sunset reminds them that time keeps moving whether fear is ready or not. You might miss the turning point if you stop listening now, because the next revelation explains why their heart has changed more in recent days than it has in months. What surprised them most was not the weight of the secret itself. It was discovering how deeply they still cared about what you would think, what you would feel, and whether you could ever understand the silence they created. That realization became impossible to ignore. For the first time, they stopped asking, "What if I lose everything?" and started asking, "What if I lose the chance to finally be honest?" Those are two very different questions. One is driven by fear. The other is guided by hope. And hope has quietly begun winning that battle. There is another layer to this story that few people ever recognize. Sometimes life pauses important conversations until both hearts have grown enough to receive them differently. The version of your soulmate from months ago might have continued hiding forever. But the person they are becoming now sees courage in a new light. Courage is no longer about pretending to be strong. It is about allowing themselves to be seen exactly as they are, without disguises, without perfect words, without certainty about the outcome. That inner shift is changing everything. Before you leave this chapter, hold on to one final thought. The most meaningful connections are rarely built on flawless moments, they are built on honest ones. Somewhere, your soulmate is standing on the edge of a decision that could finally replace silence with truth. The words they have kept locked away are closer to being spoken than ever before. And when that moment finally arrives, you may understand that this journey was never about fear alone. It was about discovering that even after regret, there is still room for understanding, healing, and a brand new beginning. But the story does not end here. One final chapter remains, and it reveals the unexpected sign that convinces your soulmate the time to stop hiding has finally arrived. The waiting is almost over, because there comes a moment in every story when silence can no longer protect what the heart truly wants. Your soulmate has reached that exact moment. They have spent countless nights convincing themselves that tomorrow would be the better time to speak, only to watch another tomorrow disappear. But something unexpected has shifted within them. The fear that once controlled every decision is slowly losing its voice, while the desire to live honestly is becoming impossible to ignore. They are beginning to understand that regret is not healed by more silence, it is healed by truth. Recently, they found themselves reflecting on everything that brought them to this point. They realized that the greatest mistake was never facing a difficult situation, it was believing they had to face it completely alone. That realization changed something deep inside them. Instead of seeing themselves through the lens of shame, they started seeing themselves as someone who still deserves understanding, kindness, and the chance to explain. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. Yet that quiet process has already begun. And with every passing day, the distance between who they were and who they are becoming grows smaller. Imagine standing in front of a door you have been afraid to open for so long. You know that once it opens, nothing will remain hidden. Your soulmate is standing before that door now. Their hands may still tremble, but their heart has already taken the first step. They no longer dream about escaping the truth. They dream about finally speaking it. And strangely enough, that dream has brought them more peace than all the months they spent trying to hide. Wait until the final moment, because what comes next explains why this story was never about losing hope, it was about finding the courage to begin again. If this journey has touched your heart, you might consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading your words could discover the encouragement they have been searching for. And if stories that explore hope, healing, and meaningful connections speak to you, subscribing is simply a way to continue this journey together. Now listen carefully, because this is the quiet truth that changes everything. Life does not always ask us to have perfect answers. Sometimes it only asks us to take one sincere step forward. Your soulmate is finally ready to take that step. Not because every fear has disappeared, but because they have discovered that hope is stronger than fear. Whatever conversation awaits them, whatever future unfolds, they know they can no longer let silence decide the ending. So let this story remain with you. Every delay carries a lesson. Every hidden truth carries the possibility of understanding. Every regret carries the chance to become wisdom. And every new sunrise offers another opportunity to choose honesty over fear. The chapter that once seemed filled with uncertainty is slowly transforming into one filled with possibility. Perhaps that is the greatest surprise of all. Not that everything changed overnight, but that one brave decision was enough to begin changing everything. And as this story closes, remember one thing: the most extraordinary endings are often the ones that begin with a single honest conversation, one that neither heart will ever forget. One final truth remains, and it is the truth that gives every previous chapter its meaning. Throughout this journey, it may have seemed as though your soulmate was trapped by circumstances beyond their control. But now you can see something much deeper. The real battle was never against the outside world, it was against the fear of being completely seen. Fear has a way of convincing people that silence is safer than honesty. Yet silence rarely brings peace. It only delays the healing that truth can begin. Your soulmate has finally reached the point where they understand that carrying everything alone has become more painful than opening their heart. Every memory of you now reminds them that genuine connection is built on trust, not perfection. They no longer wish to be remembered for the words they never spoke. They want to be remembered for finding the courage to speak before it was too late. That realization has awakened something powerful inside them. It is quiet. It is steady. And it is changing every decision they make from this moment forward. There is something extraordinary about people who choose honesty after living in fear. They begin to notice opportunities they once ignored. They begin to believe that tomorrow does not have to repeat yesterday. Your soulmate has started imagining a future that is no longer defined by regret but by possibility. Instead of asking, "Can I erase the past?" they are asking, "What beautiful future can still be created if I stop hiding today?" That single shift in perspective has become the beginning of their transformation. Perhaps this message has reached you for a reason as well. Not because it predicts the future with certainty, but because it reminds you of something timeless. Every meaningful relationship grows stronger when truth is welcomed with compassion. Life is filled with moments that invite us to choose understanding over assumption, patience over fear, and hope over despair. Those choices often become the moments we remember for the rest of our lives. So as this story comes to its final breath, leave behind the weight of unanswered questions. Remember the journey, not as a tale of sadness, but as one of awakening. A heart that once hid behind silence has discovered the strength to move toward honesty. A future that once looked uncertain is now filled with new possibilities. And somewhere beyond this very moment, two paths that seem to be drifting apart may yet find the courage to move toward the same horizon. If there is one lesson to carry with you, let it be this: the greatest turning points in life rarely arrive with loud announcements. They begin with one quiet decision. To stop hiding, to speak with sincerity, and to believe that even after regret, hope can still write a beautiful new chapter. Thank you for walking through this story until the very end. Sometimes the most powerful message is not the secret that was hidden, it is the courage that finally brings it into the light. Before this journey truly ends, there is one last reflection your heart deserves to hear. Stories like this are never meant to predict another person's life with certainty. They are mirrors that invite us to think about courage, honesty, and the quiet choices that shape our future. If your soulmate has been carrying regret, then the greatest gift they can give themselves, and anyone they care about, is the willingness to replace fear with openness. That is where every meaningful beginning starts. Picture them standing beneath a calm evening sky, taking one slow breath after another. For the first time in a long while, they are no longer asking life to erase the past. They are asking for the strength to face tomorrow with a different heart. They understand now that every hidden feeling, every unfinished conversation, every silent goodbye has been teaching them a lesson they could not see before. Regret was never meant to become their permanent home. It was meant to become the bridge that carried them toward wisdom. And perhaps this is the greatest surprise of all. The ending they feared for so long never truly existed outside their imagination. What existed was an opportunity to choose sincerity instead of assumptions, hope instead of endless doubt, and compassion instead of imagined rejection. The future is never written by yesterday's silence alone. It is shaped by today's courage. So if this story has stayed with you until this very moment, take its message beyond these words. Let it remind you that every meaningful connection deserves honesty. Let it remind you that understanding often begins with one brave conversation. And let it remind you that even when life feels uncertain, the human heart still has an incredible ability to grow, forgive, and move forward. Now the screen will soon fade, but the question remains with you. What truth have you been waiting to hear? What truth have you been waiting to speak? Sometimes the answer arrives quietly. Sometimes it changes everything. Until the next story, carry hope with you. Protect your peace. Value honest hearts. And never underestimate the power of one sincere moment to rewrite the direction of an entire journey. Because the most unforgettable chapters are not the ones filled with perfect people. They are the ones where imperfect hearts finally choose truth over fear. And perhaps, that beautiful choice is only just beginning. Just when you think every chapter has been written, life quietly opens one more page. And this page is different. It is not filled with fear, confusion, or unanswered questions. It is filled with perspective. Looking back, your soulmate now realizes that every moment of silence carried a lesson they could never have learned any other way. They discovered that people often spend so much time worrying about what might happen that they forget to notice what is happening inside their own hearts. They were waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect words, the perfect certainty. But perfection never arrived. Instead, clarity arrived. And clarity whispered something beautifully simple: the truth does not need perfect timing to have value. There is a quiet strength growing within them now. It is not loud enough for the world to notice, but it is strong